Hi everybody, welcome to our Launchmetrics Support Center. Today we're going to be talking about Discover, and particularly we're going to be talking about the reports that you can run in Discover. Now this video is going to take into account that you have an understanding right now of how to create a focus, how to create feeds, how to edit your feeds. So if you don't really understand those words that I just said, or you're not really totally familiar with Discover, I highly suggest you do take a look at the other articles that we do have within our Support Center section on Discover. It's going to give you all the information that you need on how to be an expert on Discover. This video is going to be really focused on just running a monthly report in our report section. So, we're not going to talk about making focuses or feeds or editing those things. It's just going to be about running a report and taking a look at the PowerPoint report. So again, I highly encourage you to take a look at the other articles that are in our Support Center if you want to learn more about everything else about Discover. So let's get started. So it's very easy. We're just going to click on the word reports. And we currently have other videos on how to run a coverage book report as well as an Excel report. So if you're looking to run either of those, I highly suggest that you watch our quick videos on those reports, on those formats. So this one's just going to be about our monthly PowerPoint report. So I'm going to go ahead and select my focus, which is New York Fashion Week. That's been our focus in our Support Center throughout all of the articles and videos, so we'll stay consistent with that. Once we select our focus, this is where we have the options to pick what our export format's going to be. As I mentioned, we have videos that also cover coverage book reports as well as data reports, so highly recommend you also watch those. This video that you're watching now is talking just about the monthly PowerPoint report. So I'll go ahead and select that as my export format. You can only do one at a time when you're running this report. The time range. So you'll notice with the monthly report, the time range is just a month-to-month comparison. So we're going to go ahead and do November of 2017 compared with October of 2017. Once I pick the time range or the month that I want to compare, this is where we can go ahead and select our feeds. You can select as many feeds as you'd like. You can select all of them or just one of them, but you do have to select at least one. So for me, if you followed along with our other articles in the Support Center, you'll know that we created feeds regarding New York Fashion Week. So our print feed, that's going to be using our offline clipping provider Visual Box. They're able to clip articles for us and put those into Discover. So if you're interested in learning more about offline clipping services, I highly recommend that you reach out to your Launchmetrics account manager for more information. Our online feed, we've set that up in Discover to generate any mention on the internet that includes the entire main expression New York Fashion Week. So anytime New York Fashion Week was said out in the internet, that is going to go into my New York Fashion Week online feed. For social, when we set up our social feeds, we use just Twitter, and we did hashtag NYFW. So anytime NYFW was mentioned on Twitter, that's going to go into my social feeds. Now the numbers that you see here, that is just for the month of November. Certainly if we jump back to September, for example, you're going to see that the amount of mentions, through the roof. We're looking at 36,000, 44,000, so much higher than November, obviously, because New York Fashion Week was in September. We're not going to run September today just because I don't actually have any mentions from the month of August. We did that, after we made our feeds after the month of August, so I don't have results for that. So that's why we're going to go ahead and compare November, because we'll have a full month of October mentions versus the full month of November mentions here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select all three feeds, and I'm going to tell Discover that I want to see a clipping. So when I say clipping, I'll give you guys a sneak peek at the report here. A clipping is just the full page actual view of our mention, which is which will be in our report. So this would be a clipping in our print feed. These would be the clippings in our online feeds. And then for social, we have our clippings done just like this. So you'll see just a snippet of the actual tweet or Instagram post. So that's what we mean by clippings here. So my suggestion would be, even though it's going to take your report a little bit longer to generate, I would suggest including more mentions than less. And the reason why is because that's going to give you the flexibility to edit and remove within your PowerPoint report potential clippings that you don't want to see. So right now, when I do just the first 10 mentions, I only have 10 pages of clippings, whether that's online or print, social. I only have 10 pages that I could potentially remove from here. So the more that you have, the more flexibility you'll have in selecting just the clipping pages that you want to show. But again, that's going to take a little bit longer to download, which is why I'm just going to stick with 10 for now. So where do these 10 come from? So this is going to be based on, and each of these are going to be different per feed. So for my print, I want to see the best audience. So which print magazine has the best potential audience, so the largest reach. That's what I'll select for print. For my online, I want to see what has the best ad value. So which online articles have the best ad value. And then for social, I want to see what has the most engagement. So these are the parameters that I used when I ran my report. Now you'll notice here that there is a caution icon. The caution icon is telling us that the feed contains more than 10,000 total mentions, and that's going to compare both months. So you see 8,000, that's less than 10,000. So you would think, why is that warning coming up? Well, that's taking also in consideration October 2017. So in October, we had more than 2,000 mentions. So that's why that's a total of 10,000. So this is just telling us that only a maximum, so 10,000 of all of the social mentions out there, only 10,000 are going to be evaluated when running this report. So just keep note of that. So the next step here would be, once I have this set up, I'm going to click on Export to a PowerPoint. You're going to see that's going to download here in the left-hand corner. Now it's going to take a little bit here, so that's why we've already gone ahead and run the report for us, so we don't have to wait and watch that. But hopefully it's pretty clear, pretty easy. Only 3 things that we need to select before we go ahead and export our report. So let's go ahead. We're going to fire up this report. We'll take a look at it. So the very first page, obviously just a very blank cover page. You can totally go ahead and edit any of the titles that you'd like, or add anything more to this cover page. November 2017, again, that's just telling us that we're comparing the month of November to the month of October. The next page, the second page, is just a general overview of our print, online, and social feeds. So these are giving us information on the amount of placements per feed, the ad value per feed, as well as the estimated audience. And the numbers you see here are based in thousands. So these are some pretty large numbers here that we're seeing. Now, not to be confused, but what the information that we see on this page is the same information that we're going to see on this page. It's just in a different graph, a different chart. So perhaps a little bit easier to see. Again, now we can see that potential reach, 1817.3 million. So we're talking billions right now of the potential reach of people that our 3 feeds combined are getting to. Now, if we take a look, if we zoom in a little bit closer, you can see that there is a plus or a minus percentage sign. So our total placements, we had 9,000 total placements within the month of November. So that's up 111% from the previous month of October. And we can count these over here: 91 plus 1,202 plus 8,170, and that gives us our 9,000. So up 111% compared to November. Our ad value here, we can also see as well. giving us, online is going to really dominate this graph here. Really, really tiny. We'll have print as well as social in there, or sorry, just online and print. So the online really dominates our print in this case here. So if we hover over our numbers too, we do get a better idea of the exact amount that's in this chart here. So you can see that those kind of little blurb there is changing as I hover over the different part of the chart that we're looking at here. The next chart is a nice line graph, so maybe a little bit easier for us to kind of visualize things. The first chart that we'll see on top is the amount of placements per day in the month of November on our print and our online feeds that we have set up. So print here is in red, and then online is in orange. So we can see it just kind of goes down and up, down and up. So if I hover over the actual line or the point, I can see that value on a day-to-day basis. Underneath here, we have social media. So again, my social media feed for my New York Fashion Week focus, I was just looking for the amount of times that hashtag NYFW was mentioned on Twitter. Now, if you were going across the other social channels, you would also see those line graphs plotted as well. Right now, this chart is just showing me my Twitter feeds and the amount of placements per day on Twitter where we saw the hashtag NYFW. Now, we also have this little word cloud here. You can totally move that around and put that wherever you'd like to move it and edit a comment on that chart. Page 5, so this is just going to be a little bit of a focus on our print categories. So when our clipping provider VisualBox clips articles and puts them into Discover, those are given tags essentially as either corporate fashion, so if it was a fashion article, or corporate miscellaneous, which might have been anything else, it's going to sort that for us. So we can see here that corporate fashion focused magazines, we had 61 placements compared to just, I guess, a miscellaneous print publication. Then we'll have our actual print focus. So this is going to be just the next couple slides are going to be dedicated to our print focus here. Really nice bar charts here about the placements per country. So we can see the United States and Spain both had 14 placements of the theme New York Fashion Week in actual print magazines. So we can see the United States, it's down in the amount of placements by 52% compared to Spain, which is up 27%. So it really gives us a nice snapshot of how we're doing in different countries and maybe some ideas of, maybe better markets to target. Now, of course, if you're a brand and you're watching this, it's going to be a little bit better because right now our report is just, it's covering New York Fashion Week, which is just it's a general term that's going to be grabbing a lot of different just posts and a lot of different topics regarding New York Fashion Week are going to come up when you're a brand and you're working in Discover and you're really focused on either a particular product. These are going to be really meaningful to you in terms of where are people talking about, what countries are talking about my brand the most, my products the most. But for, again, our term New York Fashion Week, which is very general, maybe this is a little bit not as helpful as if we were a brand showing specifically a product in our print placements. The gender breakdown, again, a little bit more of what I was saying. New York Fashion Week, that's just a general term. So everything is going to be labeled here as just unisex. Whereas if we were a brand and we had clothes that women were wearing as well as men were wearing, this gender breakdown is going to really show us the difference between 50% men are being placed in magazines with our clothing, where 50% women are, and then so you hopefully can kind of understand that for a term like New York Fashion Week, which is going to just show a lot of different things. Right now, our results are giving us 100% unisex. The next page is going to talk about supporting print sources. So where were the most placements? So I can see WWD, Women's Wear Daily in the USA. That was where we had the most placements out of our term New York Fashion Week, as well as the publisher. So Condé Nast would be the publisher of these magazines here. So these correlate to those. Now if we take a look, this is when we ran that top, this is giving us our AVE for the top print articles. So this is going to take into account, if we look at the F Italy, this Catherine Zeta-Jones article, Fashion Week is going to be mentioned on that page. It occupies 0.2% of the page. So our ad value is $1,900 based on the 0.2% of the page compared to the full ad value of that entire full page. So it gives us our page occupation breakdown and the accompanying ad value in United States dollars. Now the top 10 print articles by audience. So again, when we ran our report at the very start, we asked the report to show us the top 10 articles based on the audience size. So that's how this is ranking our print articles here. So Vanity Fair Italy has the largest audience size, which is why this is ranked here at the top. So this is just the amount of reach, the circulation that the print magazines have. Now we'll start to get into our clipping. So here we go. So we have Minnie Mouse just killing it at New York Fashion Week. This was posted in Vanity Fair Italy. It's November 1st. It's on page 144. The reach is 114,000 plus people. We have our Italy, as well as the publication name here, or the publisher name there. Again, here it is. So New York Fashion Week, New York, Minnie Mouse. So that's why this article is being clipped here, because it does mention New York Fashion Week. It'll give us information on the stylist if that's in here. So we'll see that right down there. And then the photo is by Getty Images. So that's just all getting pulled from VisualBox that does all the hard work in getting these articles cut and placed into Discover. Now again, going back to that instance, if you're a brand, for example, and this is your product, this is going to be a larger page placement than just the New York Fashion Week word in this spot there. So that's going to contribute to the AVE that you see, as well as the page placement. If this was your individual product that was on this clipping magazine. And again, we can just see more of these articles here. So New York Fashion Week would be mentioned in the text here. And as much information as there is on stylist information and the issue and the reach, that's all going to populate in the headers and the footers of our articles here. And again, you can see the text New York Fashion Week, that's right here. So again, that's why these clippings are even in our reports, because they're talking about Fashion Week, particularly in New York here. So right there, New York Fashion Week. That's why these actual articles are being put in our report. And again, too, because when we told Discover to base these on the level of audience, that's why these are in here. These magazines have the largest reach number, which is why you're seeing these particular publications in my report. So then you would move on to the online and blogs focus, and that's going to start on this slide here. So we have some more bar charts, and that's just going to compare your channel activity, so placements and ad value by channel. So we can see that our amount of placements and our ad values is relatively close to each other here. And these numbers, they are down from the month of October. So this axis is showing the amount of placements, while this axis is showing us the ad value for our online media slideshows that we were placed in, as well as blogs that we were placed in. And all these numbers here, again, comparing how well we did in November versus October. So just based on looking at this report here, our numbers are down from compared to October. We then have our countries. So just like we had we sorted things in our markets using our print slide, we have the same thing for our online placements. So we can see the United States definitely leading the charge in terms of online placements of our phrase New York Fashion Week. India is doing well. So this is something that I would be interested in learning more about in India, the publications that we're mentioning New York Fashion Week, and kind of get an idea of what's going on over there that we saw such a high increase compared to the other countries. Now, if we look at our online sources, you're going to see the actual publication, the online site that the articles were posted in, as well as the supporting author. So who is the author of these articles in these publications? Who is saying New York Fashion Week the most? We then have online categories. So in Discover, each article that is mentioned and tracked, that's going to go through our categorization system. So articles are tracked as either fashion, luxury, beauty, fashion, clothing, accessories. So you can see the different categories that our system has assigned to the articles that are placed inside of Discover. So you can kind of get an idea of the type of articles, the categories, the themes of our online placements, where our mentions are being found. Then again, now since for the online newsfeed, when we started that, we selected, we wanted to see the articles based on the AVE. So this is showing us now MSN has a really high ad value because they have such a large reach. So we're going to see a lot of those MSN articles here. Now, if you didn't want MSN articles to kind of bombard your reporting, that I would suggest going into our feeds. When we're setting up our feeds, that if you didn't want a big publication like MSN coming up at the top every single time, you could have MSN.com as a publication that is not searched for. So we could really, kind of take a look at these reports and see things more things that aren't MSN.com, for example. And MSN's coming up because they have the largest reach of any online publication that is tracked in Discover. And then our top online, so again, MSN is going to dominate this because they have the largest reach of 51+ million average visitors over the course of a 3-month stretch. That's how Discover categorizes or qualifies the amount of reach that an online publication will have. Then again here, so we'll have our clipping of the article that mentions the New York Fashion Week. So now sometimes with these articles, you'll probably want to dig into it and find it yourself. There are some articles where, right here with Taylor Swift, we can see here that this article is being published or this article is being tracked as a mention because in this little sentence right here, it does mention New York Fashion Week. Now, some of the other articles that we see here on MSN, the reason why we might not be seeing that is because it might just be on another slide. So out of the 49 slides that are in this article about celebrity hair transformations, New York Fashion Week was at one time in these slides mentioned. So that's why this is coming up in this article. So not everyone's going to be as easy to see as this article, for example, where we see New York Fashion Week highlighted in green. And here's another example here. So on that slide 1 of 23, we have our New York Fashion Week expression found. So that's why, again, that's being highlighted. It's going to be if you were looking at this article and clicked on going through these slides, you're going to eventually find New York Fashion Week mentioned. And that's why this article is being qualified into our report and into Discover. So while our image, our ability to track slideshows and image galleries is really helpful. It does sometimes maybe lead a little confusion. This article is talking about Miley Cyrus responding to criticism over a Texas shooting. Maybe you wouldn't think that this has anything to do with New York Fashion Week, but if we were to click into this slide over here, so related slide shows Disney, in there, if we were to take a look at this website, and we'll even go to it just to show that off, what I'm talking about here. When we go on here and we start to skim through, so you're going to see here, within this slideshow, New York Fashion Week is going to be found, and I will get to that here just so we really see it. And there it was back there. So right here, so New York Fashion Week. So this mention on slide 18 of 23 is the reason why this article on Miley Cyrus was qualified. So, you know, it's great that our system is able to capture those image galleries and those mentions that you would have a very hard time finding any other way. But just, you know, be cognizant of that. And if you're wondering why did this article about Miley Cyrus come up in my report, it's probably because your expression was mentioned in a gallery, an image gallery like that. So hopefully that's clear. And again, MSN, a lot of slides are used here, so that's why, you know, MSN is coming up a lot. And again, that's also going back to the reason MSN has a very large reach, which is why these articles are all coming from MSN. So if you don't want to just see MSN, I would suggest when you're creating your feed to eliminate that as one of the publications to find. The last section here will be our social media focus. And again, I just was looking at Twitter. So we did very well in November in Twitter. The other channels, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, you definitely can configure within your feeds. The one I made was just focusing on Twitter. So we'll look down. So we have our bar chart. It's all this is the same across each of the print, online, or social. Nothing changes. You know, we're seeing the same sort of our market page. We're seeing our overview page. So socially, we did very well on Twitter.